I've just seen Google Marketing Live 2024, the on-demand version. Link below if you're interested in watching. There's quite a few things that I thought we should talk about as marketers, so let's get on it. So the first one is the way Google presented AI was quite interesting. They mentioned that AI is not replacing marketing or replacing marketers. It's a tool to be utilized, and it's a tool to support your marketing output, whether that's increasing efficiency, increasing output, or speeding up the launch of campaigns, or even having a feedback loop mechanism for ideation purposes. Another thing to mention is Project Astra. Link below if you're interested in hearing more about what it is. But essentially, it's AI's multimodal tool, LLM. Basically, it's how does AI support customers and how does it support advertisers? How will AI essentially bridge the gap between the two, and how can it support both parties? Before we move on to specifics, Google has a lot of leverage because it has a lot of data. And another thing worth mentioning is that humans, we have this innate ability to be curious about many things, right? Whether that's researching, or we want questions answered, or hearing multiple points of view from people. And Google search specifically is the bridge between that. I'm very confident Google isn't necessarily threatened by Microsoft's ownership of ChatGPT. Let's zoom in on AI overview. So the first one that's worth mentioning is that AI is going to change the way people search. That makes a lot of sense. But more so on the organic/SEO side, it's very likely that you'll see your organic traffic drop, but it's not because your domain authority or your blogs aren't being searched for. It's just the fact that Google as a search engine wants to really meet the intent of the user. So the element of specificity in the way Google provides results is going to be more important, rather than the user having to go to page 2 of Google search, for example. Google wants to answer the person's intent immediately. So what that means if you work within organic or on the SEO side of marketing is that even though your traffic will decrease, it's very likely that the quality of the traffic will actually increase. My advice to you is that make sure you define what quality is. Right? Does that mean that people visit multiple pages? Does that mean the duration of them visiting your website increases? Is there a conversion point that you want the user to meet, whether that's them becoming a lead or installing the app, or maybe if you're an e-commerce brand, if they actually buy a product from you? So don't be afraid if your traffic does decrease, assess the quality of that traffic. That's going to be a much more important KPI to take a look at. Another point in SEO is, so Google mentioned that people's searches have actually become more specific. So it's not just intent driven, but it's more specific in the keywords that they use. So rather than researching very generic questions, their users are a bit more specific in the questions that they have. So what that means is you want to create content that's tailored to specific searches, whether that's taking a look at your long tail phrases or taking a look at what people are searching for within a specific country or a specific category. Your generic SEO titles or generic YouTube titles might not be as effective as it was previously. So something to definitely take a look at there. Next is Google Lens. If you don't know by now, Google Lens helps users identify products with their phone cameras. For example, if you're traveling, or you leave your house and there's a specific item that you've noticed that you want to research more about, so let's say it's a product, you can use your phone to identify the product, and that links back to advertisers. Again, Google honing in on meeting the user's intent as soon as possible. There's going to be a lot more data that they can extract from people, from users. I know that sounds quite negative. Google didn't position it that way, obviously, but for advertisers, that's very likely data that we can use for our benefit. So another point worth mentioning is that Google wants to shorten the length of campaign ideation to creative briefing all the way to campaigns launching and optimizing the campaigns. So they want to shorten that window. Whereas previously you would have took multiple days, multiple resources to get a campaign live. Now, literally, the only thing you need is a Google Ads account, a credit card, and your URL, and you can essentially create a Performance Max campaign in minutes. Again, there's negatives to that, which we won't get into in this video, but that's a trend that you're going to see beyond Google Ads, and we can already see that with Meta, with Advantage Shopping Campaign Plus, essentially doubling down on AI spending your advertising budget for performance. Next point is about creatives. So Google mentioned that you can now take one creative, apply that within your Google Ads campaign, Google's AI can essentially generate multiple versions of that within seconds. So let's say you have a picture of a cup. Google's AI can essentially change the background dynamically. You can input what exactly you want around it. You can give it detail of what the product is, and it will dynamically create an AI-generated image to essentially give you more creative options, which in theory will help you find the best performing creative for that specific campaign. So next is the Power Pair, more specifically Google Search and Performance Max. They've mentioned that it isn't about which is a better ad placement, whether it's paid search or Performance Max, but you can use both ad placements as a way to support each other, right? More data equals better performance. So more campaigns, more ad placements, you're supporting your primary objective within Google Ads, because I'm assuming you'll get more conversions by having multiple ad placements versus just relying on one. On the Google search side, they also mentioned emphasizing the usage of broad match type for your keywords. But I'm definitely a fan of this when I've tested this previously at my previous roles. Again, it's just going back to the idea that when the algorithm has more data points to better find or prospect for the right user, the faster it can learn and the faster it can improve performance over a long-term period. So if your broad match keywords aren't quite working now, you need to give it time to learn, right? Just because you've been running broad match, you've been using broad match type keywords for a couple of days doesn't mean that it's not good. Assuming the data is not there, give it a chance. And then next point is for e-commerce brands. They mentioned a term called profit optimization, which is really just another fancy way of saying that your Performance Max and Google Shopping campaigns can have one bid strategy, and rather than your budget being segmented between PMax and Google Shopping, now you could have one bid strategy focused on profitability for both campaigns. Next is loyalty promotion. So this is very interesting, right? So let's say you're a returning customer, let's say it's Black Friday, and when you're researching for that product within the Google search results page, you'll actually see a discounted price rather than the original price. So I think that's a very interesting way to incentivize users to rebuy from you or buy that product again. So it's almost as if Google Ads is supporting your loyalty programs or your loyalty schemes as a brand. Definitely worth testing out. Next is definitely a bit of a left field point here, but they mentioned the power of YouTube, not just in terms of paid YouTube ads, but more so organic. And I personally know the power of YouTube myself, like from my personal experience, not just in terms of building my network or building my social proof. The truth is that YouTube is replacing TV in a lot of countries, especially for Gen Z / younger generation. They watch a lot more YouTube than TV. And interestingly, a lot of people watch YouTube on their TV. So something to at least understand as a marketer, that TV isn't necessarily dead, but it's evolving into other mediums like YouTube, Netflix, so on and so forth. Very interesting stat to take a look at is apparently on YouTube Shorts, YouTube gets 70 billion views per day. Just back on YouTube, they emphasize the power of YouTube, the power of visual storytelling, and I think just the power of video in general. And I'm personally seeing that in terms of just assessing creative performance for some of the campaigns I've been a part of, that video creatives just tend to do better than static images. Next point is lookalike audiences, or what we know as similar audiences within Google Ads. They previously archived that or basically disabled it a couple of years ago, but they're actually enabling it again for demand gen campaigns, and that makes a lot of sense because when you think of demand gen campaigns, obviously it's mostly designed for B2B marketing. When your audience or ICP is so granular, it's very hard to prospect for those users. So being able to provide Google with a CRM list, for example, and then creating a lookalike audience for that supports your B2B marketing campaigns. Ideally, lookalike audiences would have been enabled for every type of Google ad campaign type, but as a B2B marketer, take what Google's giving you. Closing off YouTube, they mentioned the power of influencer marketing. There's a feature called partnership ads, which is very similar to what Meta's doing, where an influencer or content creator will publish organic content, and then you as an advertiser can create a campaign in Google Ads that boosts the organic content that influencer posted. Let's say you work with 30 different influencers, you can essentially have the same budget for every single one. You can define the audience, you can define the call to action, the copy, and then almost A/B test which is the best performing content or which is the best performing influencers. This sounds obviously quite weird. Using influencers as a way to A/B test which will get you better performance. People buy from people, not from businesses. And then just on a tangent here, my prediction is that even if they don't want to call themselves influencers, they will essentially become ad networks. Even for brands, the same thing. We're seeing a lot more brands create their own content, create their own media. People prefer to buy from people versus corporate beings. All right, so closing off, Google mentioned a very simple framework, which is collect the right data, protect the usage of that data, and utilize it in the best way. They mentioned a tool called Data Manager, which is more of a checklist of the elements that you need to make sure that you're meeting that framework. Link is below. It's a great checklist to make sure that you're utilizing Google Ads products or Google products in general as efficiently and as a way to improve your performance. So that is not specifically just for paid advertising or Google Ads, it's for Google Analytics 4 as well. On a tangent here, there's a really great phrase that one of the speakers mentioned, which is something I really resonated with. I'll just read it off here. Measurement is not the end, it is the start of the campaign. Making sure that your attribution is working, that you're tracking the right metrics, make sure your attribution settings are in alignment, there's consistency, your attribution windows are the same from one platform to another, have some sort of consistency between these different data points. Your attribution shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be what you think about before you even try to scale or even launch campaigns. That's step one. And then final point is they mentioned marketing. They're looking to modernize marketing mix modeling. We can talk about that in a separate video. But if you are interested in understanding your holistic way of viewing what marketing channels are more effective, including offline / in real life campaigns, I would check out Google Meridian. Links below if you're interested. That's pretty much it for Google Marketing Live 2024. A lot of points to have gone through. Hopefully you found some value. Thank you for watching the video. Till next time, peace.